In a world where illness seems to impose itself like an inevitable shadow, there exists a hidden, radiant, and eternal truth. Perfect health is a divine gift that has always lived within you. This text, Divine Health in the House of God, inspired by the timeless teachings of Emmet Fox, is a journey of revelation, power, and spiritual rebirth. Here you will discover that your body is not a prison of limitations, but a living temple where the infinite spark of God dwells. Each word will be a key unlocking secret doors within your mind and heart, reminding you that health is not achieved by human effort, but revealed when you align with eternal truth. Prepare to enter the house of God, where illness dissolves like a mirage, where vital energy flows without barriers, and where your soul recognizes that wholeness has always been your inheritance. This is not just a text. It is an awakening, a rebirth, an invitation to experience the miracle of divine health here and now. Health is neither a privilege nor an accident. It is not the result of a fortunate combination of external circumstances, nor the effect of well-made material decisions. Health is the natural state of man when his thought is aligned with truth. There is no mystery in it. There is no chance, there is no divine selection that benefits some and punishes others. There is a law, and that law acts unfailingly when the individual places God first in his consciousness and orders his life in harmony with principle. When I speak of the house of God, I do not mean a temple made of stone nor an external religious structure. I refer to the inner sanctuary, the secret place of the soul where the presence dwells, where the soul meets its source, where no voice or ritual is needed, only pure attention, the willingness to listen, and the readiness to live in goodness. That sanctuary is within you. You do not have to go far. You do not have to be admitted. You only have to enter. And when you enter with humility and faith, what seemed like problems dissolves by law. Illness is not punishment. It is not mystery. It is simply the reflection of a mistaken belief, held and repeated. Change the belief, and the effect will change. If you believe in separation, you will see dysfunction. If you believe in lack, you will live in tension. If you believe in the power of evil, your body will contract. But if you believe in God as life, as intelligence, as absolute love, and you sustain that belief as a living certainty, your body will respond with order, your mind with clarity, and your environment with peace. This book does not offer magic formulas. It offers spiritual truth applied with simplicity. It teaches you to turn your attention away from the problem and direct it to God, to build the mental equivalent of health, to bless instead of complain, to persevere in the practice of right prayer, to meekly deny evil and firmly affirm good, to live as if it were true, because it is, that God dwells in your house. Every healing performed by Jesus was the expression of law, not the exception. He did not ask who was worthy. He did not examine past causes. He did not establish conditions. He simply manifested the kingdom, and that kingdom is within you. This book will teach you to manifest it as well. Infinite health in the house of God, based on the teachings of Emmet Fox. We have noticed that more than 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and giving the video a like. Thank you for inspiring us to keep creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. The Living Temple. Knowing the presence within yourself. Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? 1 Corinthians 3:16. Truth does not need defense, but it does need recognition. The human body is the living temple of the Spirit. This is not a pious metaphor, nor a literary figure, nor a devotional expression. It is a metaphysical and spiritual fact. You do not own a body, you live in it. And what sustains that body, what gives it form, strength, and function, is your consciousness, what you believe, feel, fear, love, accept, or reject. In short, what you hold as true in your thought. That is what your body will reflect in the flesh. There is no illness without thought, no disorder without an idea that precedes it, no pain without a mental cause. The cause is always in the mind. The body is never the origin of the problem. It is only the stage on which the beliefs you hold in the secrecy of your soul are enacted. That is why healing is not achieved by fighting against the symptom, but by recognizing and removing the mental cause that produced it. Do you not know that you are God's temple? You do not know, because if you knew, you would live it. If you knew that the Spirit of God dwells in you, you would never speak ill of your body, never condemn it, never treat it as an enemy. It is common to hear people say, "My bad leg, my weak heart, my sensitive stomach." What are they doing when repeating such phrases? They are praying wrongly, but praying nonetheless. For every word affirmed with faith is prayer. And since God cannot be mocked, whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. Galatians 6:7. Such declarations will bear fruit, however unpleasant. Therefore, if you want to heal your body, you must begin by healing your way of thinking. Health, like peace, like prosperity, like every manifestation of good, is the reflection of a consciousness ordered in God. Do you want health? Then do not seek it in the body. Seek God. If you find God, if you recognize Him within you as life, health will come as an inevitable consequence. And to find God, you do not need to go to a church, nor climb a mountain, nor submit to any ritual. God is within you, in that deep silence where truth speaks without words. When I was young, studying spiritual healing, both in the sacred writings and in life itself, I discovered that much of human suffering came from a mistaken idea, the belief that the body was matter, separated from God. Many thought the body was merely a biological machine destined to deteriorate, and that health depended on external factors. But this is false. The body is a living expression of the soul, and when the soul aligns with God, the body is transformed into light. The first thing anyone who desires health must do is sit in silence, not to think nor to beg, but to recognize that the life of God is within him, that this life is perfect, unchanging, eternal, that every cell of his body is animated, sustained, and governed by the same intelligence that directs the course of the stars. And once recognized, it must be declared with authority. A vague thought is not enough. It must be affirmed with conviction, with reverence, with faith. The life of God animates every cell of my body. I am the living temple of the Spirit. Good dwells in me, and there is no place for evil. Many find it difficult to affirm this because they still see symptoms in their body. But I say to you, do not wait to see the evidence before declaring the truth. Declare the truth, and the evidence will follow. There is no healing without faith, and there is no faith without practice. You cannot expect change if you continue to monitor symptoms, speak about them, measure them, or share them with others. Each time you focus on the symptom, you feed it. Each time you focus on God, you dissolve it. Do you not know that you are God's temple? Paul's question to the Corinthians is also a question to you. Do you know it? Have you recognized it? Or do you still believe you are a vulnerable body, exposed to the evils of the world without spiritual defense? The temple of God cannot be invaded. It may appear so, but appearance is not truth. And as I have taught many times, appearance is never cause. It is only effect. Change the cause and the effect will vanish. I want you to understand this clearly. You do not heal by controlling the body, but by re-educating the mind. You do not heal by fearing evil, but by affirming good. You do not heal by analyzing symptoms, but by contemplating the presence. Therefore, in your daily practice, set aside moments of silence. Close your eyes, breathe calmly, and say, I am in God and God is in me, and the divine life flows through every part of my being. I am in order, I am in peace, I am in health. Do not repeat these words like a parrot. Feel their meaning. Internalize their power. When the body seems to protest, do not scold it, do not curse it, do not ignore it. Speak to it with love. It is your servant, not your master, and as a servant it responds to your command. Bless it, thank it, and above all, give it a clear, strong, luminous image of what you want it to manifest. Here is a simple practice. Take a notebook and each night write down 3 signs of life, no matter how small they seem. Perhaps today you slept a little better. Perhaps you felt less tension in one part of your body. Perhaps you walked a few more steps without fatigue. Write it down, acknowledge it, give thanks. Every act of gratitude is one more step toward the full manifestation of health. I also encourage you to read the Psalms, not as religious poetry, but as declarations of truth. Psalm 103 says, Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who heals all your diseases. Not some, not the easy ones, all. This is the promise. And like every divine promise, it is fulfilled to the degree that you accept it as true. Do not expect immediate results, like someone who takes a medicine and watches the clock. Truth acts by law, and law cannot be hurried. but it can be applied. Be constant, be reverent, be steadfast. Do not abandon the practice out of impatience. Every true healing begins with an act of faith, is strengthened by persistence, and is consummated in the inner silence where God works without obstruction. Remember this every day: you are not alone. The presence lives in you. Your body is the temple. Your thought is the priest. Your word is the prayer. And your attitude is the incense rising to the altar of spirit. Practical reflection. Today I pause, I close my eyes, I declare without doubt, I am the temple of the living God. The life of God flows through me. I am at peace, I am in health, I am in God, and nothing can separate me from Him. And as I affirm this, I feel every cell in my body respond. Not because I see it immediately, but because I know it. And what I know in God inevitably manifests. Chapter 2, First Cause, Thought, Belief, and Health. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. Health is not a mystery, neither is it a whim of the flesh, nor an exception granted by the arbitrary will of an external God. Health is law. It is the natural state of every being created in the image and likeness of God. And God does not fall ill. Truth does not decay. Spirit does not weaken. If there is sickness, then it cannot be in truth, it cannot be in God. It cannot proceed from principle, for what is born of spirit is spirit, and spirit is life, and life is health. So what is illness? It is a belief, an image, a thought held in the heart of man. Nothing appears in the flesh that has not first been accepted in the mind. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Not as he thinks superficially, nor as he declares with his lips, but as he thinks in his heart, that is, in his deep mind, in his intimate belief, in what he secretly holds as true. In my experience with thousands of people over the years, in New York, in London, in San Francisco, I always saw the same pattern: suffering bodies reflecting suffering ideas. Where there was fear, there was contraction. Where there was guilt, there was pressure. Where there was resentment, there was inflammation. The body does not err, the body obeys. It obeys what you believe. It obeys what you fear. It obeys what you sustain with emotion. That is why health is not attained by forcing the body to be well. That would be like painting white over a crumbling wall. You may cover the crack for a moment, but the structure remains compromised. True healing is not obtained by pushing the body, nor by battling the symptom, nor by stubbornly denying what you feel. True healing begins when thought is straightened, when consciousness is aligned, when the heart is re-educated to think with God. I have said many times, we do not fight evil, we deny it. And there is an immense difference between the two. To deny meekly means not to grant evil any power. It means to look it in the eye and say, you are not cause, you are not substance. You have no law, you have no intelligence, you have no truth. It is not about shouting these words or repeating them anxiously, but about understanding them in peace. Spiritual meekness is not weakness, it is authority without tension. It is dominion without violence. It is power in peace, and on the other hand, to affirm with authority is not to impose something by force, but to open the door of the soul so that truth may enter. To affirm is to allow. To affirm is to consent. To affirm is to give place to the reality of God in every cell, in every nerve, in every function. When you affirm the life of God now orders my body, you are not forcing, you are remembering. You are not trying, you are recognizing. You are not searching outside, you are igniting within. Think of it this way. If you live in a well-built house and someone suddenly knocks at the door shouting that the house is about to collapse, would you believe them without looking? Would you run out in fear without verifying? Or would you calmly affirm the solidity of your dwelling? In the same way, when a negative belief knocks at the door of your consciousness, a suspicion, a dreaded diagnosis, a careless word, you have the right and the spiritual duty to deny its power and affirm the truth of your being. The mind cannot hold two opposing ideas with equal strength. Either it believes in good or it believes in evil. There is no middle ground. That is why, if you want to see health, you must make thought a constant vigilance, not a tense or paranoid vigilance, but a lucid and loving one. Observe what images you let in, what words you repeat, what conversations you maintain, what impressions you accept. Every idea is a seed, and every seed eventually germinates. Here I propose a simple yet powerful practice. Take small cards, the size of your hand. On each one, write a short affirmation of health. Not vague or grandiose phrases, but clear, concrete, affirmative truths. For example, that God is my health. Divine harmony now regulates every function of my body. Nothing can separate me from the life that gave me being. Every organ of mine obeys the perfect principle. I am made in the image of good. Carry these cards with you. Read them on the train, in line, during a break. Not as superstition, but as conscious sowing. Repetition is the instrument of faith. What you repeat sinks in. What sinks in takes root. What takes root blossoms. Each well-sown affirmation is a decree that the subconscious executes with precision. At the same time, also practice denials. If you feel fear, deny its authority. Say, "This fear has no spiritual foundation. I deny its cause. I deny its power. Only good is real." If you feel pain, do not curse it. Do not accept it as punishment. Say to it, "You are not truth in God. You are not law. You have no root. You have no place in the temple of spirit." And then affirm, "God is the only cause. God is the only power. God is the only health." Now, do not be discouraged if the mind seems to resist. That is natural. The mind has been educated for years by fear, by the culture of suffering, by the voices of elders who believed that sickness was part of life. But you can re-educate your soul. The mind is pliable, thought is changeable, and truth, being truth, does not need volume. It only needs to be accepted. Have you noticed how a lie sustained for years can vanish in seconds when evidence to the contrary is shown? So it is with negative beliefs. You may have lived 10, 20, 30 years believing that your body was weak, that your health was fragile, that sickness was part of your family inheritance. But if today you accept wholeheartedly the truth of God within you, that lie begins to dissolve, not by effort, but by law. To reinforce this inner work, I recommend that each night you open the book of Proverbs. Read just one. Pause on a single phrase. Chew it in the mind. For example, "Gentle words are a tree of life." What words have you spoken to yourself today? Have they been gentle or harsh? Have they been words that bless or words that wound? Another proverb says, "A joyful heart makes a cheerful face, but by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is crushed." Reflect on where your thought has rested today. At the beginning of this path, resistance will likely arise, even from within. The mind accustomed to the habit of fear, of complaint, of seeking outside, will want to return to the old. But if you persevere, if you affirm with conviction and deny with meekness, your subconscious will be renewed, and what was disorder will begin to align. Nothing can resist clear, persistent thought centered in God. For thought centered in God is creative, and what it creates in the mind is expressed in life. If you desire health, it is not enough to wish for it, like someone who longs for another's flower. You must think it, feel it, sustain it, affirm it, until it becomes flesh. That is the law. Practical reflection. Today I observe my thoughts like a loving sentinel, not to condemn them but to direct them. I deny in peace all that is not of God. I affirm with certainty all that manifests His presence, and I declare with authority, as I think in my heart, so is my body. Today I think with God. Today I choose life. Today I am health. Chapter 3. The mental equivalent of health. According to your faith be it done unto you. Matthew 9:29. Nothing can manifest in your life unless it first exists as its equivalent in the mind. This is an immutable, universal, and perfect spiritual law. It is not a modern discovery, nor an optimistic theory, nor an emotional suggestion. It is the law of God. Whatever you hold in consciousness as true will sooner or later externalize in your affairs, in your body, in your relationships, in everything. If you desire health, then you must form in your mind a clear, serene, and steady image of what health means to you. For nothing will come to you without its mental equivalent, and nothing will remain, even if it comes, unless it finds support in your thought. Now, many people desire health, pray for it, and even repeat affirmations of life, but they have no defined mental equivalent. Their inner image is shaped more by the absence of disease than by the presence of good. They imagine not being sick, but they do not clearly know what it means to be truly well. And for that reason, although the symptom may be relieved, fullness does not manifest, because the mind requires an image, and that image must be built from truth, not from lack. Imagine you wish to build a house. If your architect asks you how you want it, and you answer, "Well, I don't want it to flood. I don't want it to collapse. I don't want it to be dark. I don't want it to be in a dangerous place." What can that architect do with such a description? Nothing. For what you have given is not a vision, but a list of denials. And this is exactly what happens with poorly directed prayer. It focuses on what is not wanted rather than on what is desired. It focuses on avoiding evil instead of accepting good. The mental equivalent of health is the idea, the form, the inner blueprint that you build in your thought so that the universal law has something to express. It is not about fantasizing about miracles, but about serenely accepting divine reality. You are not asked to imagine the impossible, but to define with honesty and joy what health truly means for you. Perhaps it means freedom of movement. Perhaps it means restorative rest. Perhaps strength to work with joy. Perhaps peace upon waking and gratitude at nightfall. You must discover it. You must define it. For what is not defined cannot manifest. The Holy Spirit does not impose forms. Life awaits your mental mold. Light does not force its way in. It enters through the opening you provide. And if that opening is only a fearful crack, only a faint ray will appear. But if your mental image is broad, luminous, and steady, the manifestation will be full. The law never fails. Principle always acts. The only thing that prevents its work is lack of correspondence. And so today I propose a powerful exercise. Take a sheet of paper and write, without haste, without censorship, what it means for you to be healthy. Do not write what you have read in books, nor what others expect or suppose. Ask yourself with honesty and gentleness, what would my day look like if I were completely well? What activities would I do? What thoughts would I have? How would I feel upon waking? What would my face show? How would I walk? What would I do at night? Do not write too much, but write with precision. A clear, simple, joyful image, without adornment, without exaggeration, without fear. You might write, for example, I rise with lightness, I give thanks, I breathe fully, and I walk without discomfort. I work with enthusiasm, I eat with peace, I sleep with rest. I feel confidence in my body, and I welcome joy, I express usefulness, and I live with love. That is a mental equivalent. It is not fantasy, not illusion. It is the invisible matrix that summons form. And once written, read it each morning. Not to beg, not to wish, but to affirm, as one who contemplates what already exists in spirit and awaits its expression. Recite it in silence. Visualize that day, feel it, give thanks, and then release it. Do not obsess over it. Do not monitor it. Anxiety to see results dissolves the equivalent, just as someone who pulls a seed from the soil to check if it has sprouted destroys the growth. Impatience reveals unbelief, and where there is no faith, there is no work. True faith is serene, it is constant, it is joyful. It does not need to see in order to believe. It believes, and therefore it sees. Health is not a reward, it is a reflection, and you, with your thought, are always projecting images that your body receives. The body does not decide. The body follows instructions, and those instructions come from your deep mind. Perhaps you say, I have been affirming for weeks and I see no change. Then I ask you, are you affirming from certainty or from desire? Are you affirming what is true in God or what you merely hope will occur? For there is a great difference. The one who affirms from certainty says, I now accept the life of God within me, not tomorrow, not if I feel better, not if the symptom disappears, but now, because God does not act in time. God acts in the eternal present. If you affirm this with constancy, serenity, and faith, the equivalent is impressed. And once impressed, the equivalent manifests, by law. Perhaps not as you expected, perhaps not in the part of the body you imagined, but health will come because health is the visible name of an invisible consciousness in harmony. To strengthen this practice, I also suggest that each night before sleep, you visualize a day in order. Do not attempt to resolve all affairs. Do not worry about details. Simply imagine yourself moving freely, breathing deeply, acting in peace, with lightness, with courage, with trust. This image will be like a lamp lighting the path of your body while you sleep. Always remember, the invisible precedes the visible. What you see is effect. The cause is in your mind. Health is not something received from outside, nor something regained by luck, nor something begged for in fearful prayer. It is the expression of what you believe, accept, and sustain as true in your soul. Practical reflection. Today I define my health with clarity. It is freedom, joy, peace, rest, usefulness. It is the life of God expressing itself without hindrance. I affirm with faith, I now accept the life of God within me, and as I say it, I feel it. Because I know principle responds not because I shout, but because I believe. And because I believe, it will be done unto me according to my faith. Chapter 4. Cleansing the heart, forgiveness and release. Forgive us our debts as we also forgive our debtors. Matthew 6:12. A heart that holds resentment cannot host peace, and without peace there is no health. The lack of forgiveness, no matter how justified it may seem in the eyes of the world, acts as a binding force, an invisible knot that ties the soul to the memory of wrong. And that wrong, sustained in consciousness, does not remain still. It seeks a channel through which to express itself. Just as stagnant water decays, stagnant emotion turns into mental confusion, bodily illness and general disorder. There is no way to maintain resentment and be healthy at the same time. You may silence the offense on the surface, rationalize it, justify it, or deny it. But if deep within the soul there lingers an unhealed image of offense, it will manifest. Not because God punishes, God does not punish, but because the law acts. The law does not distinguish between just and unjust according to human logic. The law reflects, and if you hold on to pain, fear, vengeance, or guilt, the law will reflect those states of consciousness without judgment and without delay. That is why, if you desire health, you must first untie your soul. And this is done through forgiveness, not through forced forgetting, not through bitter resignation, not through tense silence, but through active blessing. Forgiveness is not saying that the other was right, nor is it accepting injustice as good. It is understanding that everything that happens on the outer plane is an opportunity to choose again. To forgive is to release the cord that ties us to suffering. It is to return the soul to its original state of innocence. It is to clear the heart so that life may flow unhindered. Resentment acts like a rope binding the mind to a particular scene. That rope tightens every time you relive the scene, every time you retell it, every time you analyze it, every time you look for allies to justify it. It is like carrying an invisible burden heavier than any illness. Sometimes that burden has a name: a harsh father, a lost love, a traitorous friend, a child who left. Sometimes it has a shape, a cruel phrase, an old disdain, a broken promise, and sometimes resentment turns against oneself in the form of guilt, reproach, or shame. But whatever its form, all resentment is spiritual disease, and it dissolves only through the conscious act of release. That is why I invite you to do this work with sincerity, not as a moral gesture, but as an act of inner hygiene. Just as you cleanse your body daily with water, so must you cleanse your soul daily with forgiveness. And if you do not be surprised if confusion grows, if the body protests, if prayer seems unanswered. The channel is obstructed, the mind saturated, the heart closed. Begin today. Write a letter not to send but to empty yourself. Take paper and pen and express all that you have not said. Do not censor the language, do not rationalize. Say what you feel. Give form to the grievance, pull out the thorn. And when you have finished, read it softly, not with hatred but with acknowledgement. Then burn it, surrender it to the symbolic fire of transmutation, and say with faith, I renounce this wound. I release this bond. I choose freedom. You will feel relief. You may cry. You may tremble. But that is the sign that stagnant energy has been released. Afterward, begin to bless. Bless every person who has been an instrument of your pain, not because they deserve it, but because you do. To bless is not to reward the other. It is to heal yourself. Say, I bless your soul, I bless your path, I release you and I release myself. Good is your inheritance and also mine. Peace to you, peace to me. At first it will be hard, do not deceive yourself, but if you persevere, the burden will loosen, and one day, without knowing how, you will think of that person without pain. That is the miracle of forgiveness. It does not erase the past, but it erases the wound. And if you ever doubt the power of this path, remember that Jesus himself, in the prayer he left us as a model, placed forgiveness at the very center of spiritual practice. He did not say, give us health or give us power. He said, forgive us as we forgive. That is the key. That is how the law is established. You will receive in the measure that you give. You will be freed in the measure that you free. This is not a threat, but a spiritual equation. I invite you then to take the Lord's Prayer each day, not as a repetitive chant, but as a guide for transformation. Pause at that line. Breathe it in. Feel its force. Forgive us as we forgive. Ask yourself, am I willing to forgive today? Am I willing to let go? Am I willing to choose peace over being right? And if your answer is yes, even a weak yes, that is enough. God does not demand perfection, but sincerity. What you cannot yet achieve today, you will tomorrow if you remain on the path. What you cannot yet feel, you will feel if you continue to declare the truth. For every sincere willingness is like a river beginning to flow, and in its flowing it cleanses. Now I want to leave you with a prayer of forgiveness. Do not repeat it mechanically. Read it with intention. If it resonates, make it yours. If you need to adjust it, do so. But use your power for prayer, when true is medicine. Prayer of forgiveness. I forgive every person who has passed through my life and did not know how to love me. I release them. I bless them. I forgive every word that hurt me, every gesture that denied me, every omission that pained me. I release them. I bless them. I forgive myself for every judgment, every harshness, every sustained error. I release myself, I bless myself, and I declare in the name of God, life flows in me without obstruction. Good circulates freely. I am at peace. I am healthy. I am in God. Practical reflections. Today I let go. Today I bless. Today I declare my freedom. I will not allow any past to steal my peace. I will not allow any memory to separate me from health. And so I forgive. Not because I am forced, but because I have understood that forgiveness is the doorway to healing. I forgive, and in forgiving I am free. Chapter 5. Our daily bread, the spoken word that nourishes. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4. The word is a seed, the word is a cause, the word is a prayer. Every time you speak a phrase filled with emotion and belief, you are planting a seed in your mental field. That seed, in time, will bear fruit, and the fruit will be according to its nature. There are no exceptions. You cannot sow words of fear and reap peace. You cannot sow phrases of discouragement and expect health. You cannot water your soul with complaints and expect joy to blossom. What you speak, so it shall be, for the word creates, the word sustains, the word nourishes or poisons. The bread that sustains man is not only physical food. The true bread is the word that feeds your consciousness. And that is why the Master Jesus declared that man shall not live by bread alone. There are those who eat 3 meals a day and yet grow weak, fall ill, become exhausted. Why? Because they do not nourish themselves with living words. Because between bites they repeat phrases of worry, complain of their ailments, compete in diagnoses, analyze their symptoms, consult with everyone except God. That constant conversation about illness acts as a negative prayer, an affirmation of evil, an invitation to disorder. The spoken word is a command to the subconscious. Each time you describe yourself as sick, weak, old, or exhausted, your soul listens, and since the soul does not reason or object, it simply acts according to what it is told. That is why many people, without intending to, perpetuate their condition not by what they do, but by what they say. Not because the body has a will of its own, but because thought commands it to repeat the state that the word has decreed. I have known people who have overcome serious illness simply by changing their way of speaking. People who, without denying what they felt, began to declare truth above the symptom and witnessed how their bodies slowly regenerated like the earth when winter passes. And I have also seen the opposite. People who, even while receiving spiritual treatment, destroyed their progress as soon as they left the session, because they returned to speaking of their illness in detail, describing it with precision, receiving pity with pleasure, cultivating the victim identity tenderly. You must understand this, language creates. It does not matter if you speak in jest, with irony, casually, or without intent. The subconscious does not distinguish tone. It only records the image and the emotion. If every day you say, "I'm worn out, my back is killing me, I'm getting worse and worse, my same old problem," you're writing those phrases on the inner chalkboard of your mind, and that script, sooner or later, will be enacted by your body. Therefore, if you desire healing, you must establish a loving discipline. Do not speak of illness, not as repression, but as hygiene. Just as you would not willingly drink dirty water or inhale smoke, neither should you allow your tongue to pollute your temple. And if others speak of sickness in your presence, do not argue or correct. Simply remain silent or change the subject. Protect your mental atmosphere as you would protect a wound that is healing. The body needs rest, the mind too. Instead, cultivate words that nourish. Speak of what is good. Speak of what is improving. Speak of what is growing. Speak little, but speak truth. A single phrase spoken with faith has more power than 1,000 empty prayers. For example, a simple formula: I give thanks because the life of God is working now. There is no urgency in that phrase, no pressure, no fear. There is faith, certainty, recognition. Repeat it rhythmically as one breathes. Write it down, keep it close at hand. In moments of doubt, in times of discomfort, pause and declare, I give thanks because the life of God is working now. Gratitude is a powerful channel of healing, not because it convinces God, but because it aligns your soul with the good. You do not need to beg to be healed. God is not persuaded by supplication. God works by law. But gratitude opens the heart. Gratitude prepares the soil. Gratitude dissolves resistance. When you give thanks in advance, you are saying, I trust, I accept, I know. And that inner attitude accelerates the process of restoration. I also recommend reciting passages of trust from Scripture, not as magic, not as routine, but as nourishment. Psalm 23 is spiritual bread. I shall not want. He restores my soul. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow, I will fear no evil. Psalm 91 is a shield. You will not fear the terror by night. No plague shall come near your dwelling. With long life I will satisfy you. Psalm 103 is medicine. Who heals all your diseases? Read one each morning. Meditate on it. Breathe it in. And if a verse resonates with you, repeat it aloud during the day. Let your mouth be filled with truth. Let your breath carry life. On this path, do not be afraid of seeming naive. The world mocks the simple, but admires results. Do not fear to speak of good, even if others speak of tragedy. Do not fear to bless your body, even when you feel discomfort. Do not fear to declare health, even when you see symptoms. For the spoken word, when born of spirit, is not just sound, it is living seed. And that seed, when it finds fertile soil, germinates with power. Do not forget what has already been said. Nothing enters your experience without its mental equivalent, and language is the primary tool by which that equivalent is built. Therefore, be careful with what you say, be austere, be reverent. The Word was the first act of creation, and God said, let there be light. And if you speak from your Christ within, from the consciousness of oneness with God, your word will also be creative, illuminating, transforming. Practical reflection. Today I guard my words as a treasure, but I will not speak of evil. I will not repeat diagnoses, I will not feed fear, I will speak little, and when I speak I will bless. I declare with faith, I give thanks because the life of God is working now. This phrase is my bread. This phrase is my medicine. This phrase is my prayer. And because I hold it, the good manifests. Chapter 6. Touch the edge of his mantle, practical faith in the Gospels. If I only touch his cloak, I will be healed. Matthew 9:21. Every healing recounted in the Gospels is not simply a past event or a supernatural feat attributed to a divine figure. Each healing performed by Jesus is a spiritual law in action. Every account, when read with understanding, is an inner blueprint, a living instruction, a reproducible model for any soul that chooses to place its faith in the presence of God. Jesus never acted by exception. He did not perform miracles to demonstrate personal power. He did not heal to impress. Each of his acts was an ordered expression of an invisible law that still operates today with the same precision. Where there is consciousness, there is law. Where there is law, there is result. The Master required no rituals, no diagnoses, no analysis, only a willing soul, an open mind, and a trusting heart. And that trust was not passive waiting, nor a fashionable resignation. It was active surrender, a working certainty, a simple faith that produced effect. The woman who touched the cloak needed neither words, permission, nor explanation. She touched from within, she believed without conditions, and the law responded, "If I only touch his cloak, I will be healed." This was not an assumption. It was an affirmation, a mental formula, an image so clear, so firm, and so pure that it pierced all doubt and connected her soul to the presence of life. And instantly, the text says, she was healed. Not because the cloak had power, not because Jesus noticed her, but because she had fulfilled the law of inner contact. She touched not the fabric, but the truth, not the garment, but Christ, not the form, but the principle. This is fundamental. Faith is an inner contact with the presence. It is not an isolated thought. It is not an emotion. It is an act of alignment between the soul and God. When that alignment is achieved, even for a second, healing occurs, not because it is forced, but because it is already contained within the spiritual order. The problem has never been a lack of health, but a disconnection from the source. Another powerful scene, the centurion who approached Jesus asking for help for his sick servant. But when Jesus offered to go, the centurion responded, "Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak the word, and my servant will be healed." Notice here the key, the word with authority. There was no physical contact, no direct intervention, only faith in the word. The centurion understood that true authority does not shout, does not repeat, does not doubt. It simply declares, just as an officer gives an order and it is executed, so too, he said, "A word from you will suffice." Jesus marveled, not because the man was wise, but because his faith comprehended the internal structure of spiritual power. The centurion knew that a word filled with faith is action, is cause, is decree. When you declare the life of God works in me and say it with certainty, calmness, and faith, that word is not lost in the air. That word acts, builds, and transforms, not by its volume or beauty, but by its alignment with principle. The case of the paralytic is different, yet it reveals another law, the law of forgiveness that lifts. He was carried on a stretcher, immobile, and the first thing Jesus said to him was not, "Rise, but your sins are forgiven." The word sin in its spiritual sense does not mean moral guilt, but misalignment with God. What Jesus corrected first was the consciousness of error. He restored the man's inner purity, his unity with the source. And once that connection was re-established, he said, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk." Not because of magic, but because guilt had been dissolved. Forgiveness opens the door to action. Forgiveness restores the circulation of good. Forgiveness resumes the movement of the soul. Finally, the account of the 10 lepers. All were healed by obeying the instruction, but only one returned. Only one came back to give thanks. And Jesus said, "Were not 10 cleansed? Where are the 9? And to the one who returned, he said, "Your faith has saved you." Here is revealed the law of gratitude that completes the work, because gratitude is not only a response, it is confirmation. Gratitude seals the work, stabilizes it. Many begin to heal, but fall back because they do not consolidate the healing with gratitude. The body improves, but the mind continues to doubt. The symptom ceases, but the soul does not recognize the good, weakening the result. These stories are not accounts of the past. They are laws of the soul. Anyone can touch them today, here, now. No more is needed than what they had. Focus on God, simple words, acts of faith and gratitude. I propose 3 simple yet powerful resources. Devotional readings of the healing accounts. Not as history, but as a mirror. Read the gospel with the eyes of your soul. Choose a story. Sit in silence. Breathe. Read slowly. Ask yourself, what does this scene represent in me? Where am I paralyzed? What word do I need to hear? What part of my life needs contact? Meditate on it. Write down what you receive. Offer your brief prayer of contact. I touch you, presence of life. I do not seek you far away. I touch you now within me. I know you are here. I know you work. I know you heal. And therefore I receive. Amen. Say it when you feel fear. Say it when the body protests. Say it when you need alignment. The place and time do not matter, only your intention. Practice gratitude before seeing the result. Do not wait to heal to give thanks. Give thanks to heal. When you express gratitude beforehand, you are saying, "I have already received it in spirit, and if it is already mine there, I will soon see it here." Anticipatory gratitude signals maturity, and maturity produces works. It is not about deserving or understanding everything. It is about believing and touching, speaking the word with authority, forgiving and rising, thanking and receiving. Jesus never asked questions about the past, never analyzed causes, never probed errors. He only asked, "Do you believe?" And to those who said yes, he replied, "It has been done according to your faith." Practical reflection. Today I touch the mantle, not as one who waits, but as one who knows. I touch from within, declare the word. Forgive what must be forgiven. I give thanks before seeing, because I understand that Christ is not far away, Christ is in me. And when I touch him, life responds. Chapter 7, Peace, be still, rest as medicine. And he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Mark 4:39. Peace is not a luxury for contemplative souls. It is not a state reserved for monasteries, nor a reward kept for the end of life. Peace is an active spiritual function. It is a living, concrete energy that works with power when it is allowed to act. It is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of God. It is not an escape from the world, but an inner conquest. And where true peace exists, there is health. Because the soul at rest allows the principle to work without interference. Many believe that rest is passivity, that being still means doing nothing, that silence is inaction. But in truth, the greatest thing you can do for your body, your mind, your entire life is to inwardly consent to the good. This consent, expressed as deep peace, is what opens the channels through which health, clarity, strength, and solutions can flow. Agitation, on the other hand, closes them. Worry obstructs them. Constant analysis congests them. A restless mind wants to control, to understand, to foresee, to force, but God does not act through compulsion or insistence. God acts in fertile silence, in an open mind, in a soul surrendered to the law of the good. This does not mean abandoning responsibilities, nor resigning oneself. It means releasing the burden, withdrawing inwardly from the stage, letting infinite intelligence do its work as only it can. Remember the scene of the stormy sea. Jesus slept in the boat while the disciples trembled. The wind roared, the waves crashed. Chaos seemed imminent, and while everyone shouted, he rested. Not because he did not know what was happening, but because he knew who he was and what power inhabited him. When they awakened the Master, he did not join the panic, did not ask for figures, did not request explanations. He only spoke 3 words that contain all the spiritual alchemy of rest. Peace, be still. And nature obeyed. Not because the words were magical, but because they came from a consciousness that does not recognize evil as power. He did not rebuke the sea in fear, did not argue with the wind, did not fight the waves. He spoke from the center, from truth, and where truth exists, all illusions dissolve. Illness is a wave. Symptoms are ripples. A diagnosis may seem like a stormy sea. But if you learn to speak from the inner Christ, without fear, without argument, without doubt, the storm calms. Not necessarily immediately, nor in a spectacular way, but the process of pacification begins. Because when the soul rests, the body relaxes. And when the body relaxes, the flow of life is restored. There is no congestion without tension, no tension without fear, and there is no fear where the peace of God dwells. Fox taught that many people, in their eagerness to heal, do too much. They change routines, try methods, jump from one technique to another. But they do not pause. They do not quiet themselves. They do not listen. And so even when they declare affirmations, even when they pray, even when they seek help, the inner noise persists. And that noise is what prevents the seed of good from taking root, because the soul, like the earth, needs stillness to gestate the new. That is why I strongly propose a simple but transformative practice. Pauses of silence at set times, not long, not solemn. They can be 5 minutes in the morning, 5 at midday, 5 before sleeping. But they must be sacred. During that time, withdraw, close your eyes, breathe calmly. Do not think about the problem. Do not repeat affirmations. Do not ask for anything. Simply be. Remain, enter, and softly repeat. Peace. Be still. This phrase, taken from the Gospel, is more than a verse. It is a command to the soul. It is a balm for the mind. It is a spiritual password that opens the door to rest. Do not be impatient if at first your mind keeps running. Do not fight your thoughts. Do not try to force silence. Just persevere as one enters a room and settles in. Gradually, the soul adapts to stillness, and when it does, something invisible begins to happen. The problem loses weight, the body lightens, the breath harmonizes, and above all, an inner certainty, gentle but firm, whispers, God is here. I also invite you to read promises of peace from Scripture, not to memorize, but to absorb. Read slowly, meditate. Psalm 46 declares, Be still and know that I am God. Isaiah says, You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Jesus himself promised, Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give as the world gives. These are not pretty phrases. They are exact descriptions of what happens when you dwell in the presence. Finally, establish a conscious practice of releasing the burden. It is not about pretending to be strong or acting as if everything is fine. It is about recognizing that you do not have to solve everything on your own, that there is a higher wisdom, a more perfect power, a wiser presence than yourself, and that when you surrender the matter with humility, trust, and peace, that power acts. The burden is not resolved by weight, but by surrender. You can say, I do not know how, I do not know when, but I know God acts. His peace sustains me, His order guides me, His will is good, and therefore I release. I surrender, I rest. Peace, be still. Say this when your mind races. Say this when anxiety invades. Say this when there seems to be no way out, because the moment you quiet your soul, in that same instant, the work begins. Practical reflection. Today I rest in God, not because I yield to evil, but because I trust in good. Today I repeat, peace, be still, and as I say it, I release effort, fear, urgency. Rest is not weakness. Rest is strength in action, and in that rest the Christ acts. Chapter 8, Divine Order in the Home, Habits, Purity, and Simplicity. God is not a God of confusion, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33. Health is not a sudden event, nor a sporadic grace, nor a reward for fleeting good intentions. Health is a consequence, a flower that blooms from prepared soil, a visible effect of an invisible cause, divine order. And this order begins not in the body, not in food, not in external medicines, but in the mind, in the way you organize your consciousness, your thoughts, your words, your daily life. Where there is inner disorder, the body reflects it with confusion. Where there is spiritual harmony, the flesh responds with peace. Health loves order because life itself is order. No cell functions randomly. No organ works without coordination. No biological function disobeys a principle. All of nature is sustained by precise patterns, harmonious cycles, and stable laws. And what is disorder then? It is simply forgetting the principle. It is acting without rhythm, without center, without direction. It is allowing whim or reaction to set the course instead of higher consciousness. Therefore, the soul that wishes to recover or preserve health must begin by establishing a sober, simple, and consistent internal discipline. This is not about rigidity, nor imposing external rules. It is about forming habits that reflect the presence of God in both the small and the large. Fox would never recommend fanaticism. He would not encourage obsession with diets, nor unhealthy vigilance over food, nor debates about regimens, nor the exaltation of physical systems as salvation. That would invert the order of priorities. A healthy soul is moderate. It eats with gratitude, sleeps with serenity, speaks with restraint, works with purpose, and above all, prays regularly. For prayer is not only a devotional act, it is an act of alignment. Establishing a prayer schedule, even a brief one, declares that you recognize a higher intelligence as the axis of your life. It marks a fixed point in the day where the soul gathers, rests, and renews. It does not matter if your prayer lasts 5 minutes or half an hour. What matters is that it is real, consistent, and faithful. Set a schedule upon waking, at noon and at dusk. Do not skip it, postpone it, or justify it. Make it part of your structure, like washing your face or taking your food. For truly, prayer is the food of the soul, and without it, the whole system weakens. Likewise, maintain cleanliness in your surroundings, not as a worship of appearance, but as a reflection of your inner state. An orderly home fosters peace. A simple, ventilated room, free of excess, sustains clarity. Luxury is unnecessary. Complex decoration is unnecessary. Order, purity, and functionality are enough. The spirit expands best where there is no visual congestion or unnecessary noise. Conversation should also remain clean, and here greater vigilance is required because words fly fast, and often unintentionally, criticisms, ironies, and exaggerations slip in that pollute the mental environment. Cultivate gentle silence. Avoid empty chatter. Do not engage in discussions that do not edify. Do not try to convince others. Do not enter disputes over methods, doctrines, therapies, or foods. Do not speak much of what you do not know. Speak little and speak with light. Your tongue can be an instrument of health or of wear. Use words as one uses a sacred instrument. To help in this process of ordering, I recommend a very ancient and powerful tool, a personal rule of life, not an extensive list, not a rigid structure. Just 3 or 4 commitments you make with yourself and with God. Write them down. Read them every morning. Let them be your compass, your reminder, your anchor. It could be something as simple as, I gather in silence 3 times a day, bless my body and speak health. I keep my environment clean and serene. I surrender each night my day to God. These small declarations, if lived consistently, transform the soul, not because of their content, but because of their fidelity. Constancy is the plow of the Spirit. It is not about feeling it each time. It is about doing it, and in doing it, creating a furrow through which grace can flow. Another practice of great value is the evening review of the day, not as judgment, but as serene reflection. Before sleeping, sit quietly for a few minutes. Ask yourself, what did I think today? What words did I speak? Whom did I bless? Whom did I hurt with my mind or my mouth? Do not punish yourself. Do not criticize yourself. Simply observe. And where you see error, release it. Where you see success, be grateful. You can conclude with a short prayer, I surrender this day to God. Everything I did, everything I omitted, everything I thought, I give to you. Correct where I failed, and accept where I aligned with you. Amen. Finally, bless your home, bless your bed, bless your night. Do not lie down as one who surrenders to fatigue, but as one entering a sanctuary. The night is not forgetfulness. It is regeneration, and if you enter it with reverence, your rest will be healing. You can say, I bless this bed. Here rests my body, but my soul dwells in God. May peace surround me. May life renew me. May your presence protect me. In doing so, your entire home will be imbued with harmony. Do not underestimate these things. Small things reveal the great. The soul is not purified only by grand decisions, but by simple habits sustained with joy. Because when you live in order, when you walk in simplicity, when you pray with rhythm, when you care for your environment, then health no longer needs to be forced. It becomes natural. Practical reflection. Today I establish order, not out of rigidity but out of love. Order in my habits, order in my home, order in my words. I make space for God to manifest. I declare and give place to God in the small and the large, and because I give place, He expresses Himself. Chapter 9, The Consecrated Imagination, Praying for Others Without Speaking of Evil. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them. Matthew 18:20. Truly loving your neighbor is not about feeling sympathy. It is not about offering human comfort, nor repeating empty phrases in the face of another's difficulty. To love is to see God in the other. To love is to uphold the truth even when the other cannot see it. To love is to refuse to reinforce error, even when it wears the mask of compassion. To love is to pray correctly with spiritual vision, not emotional pity. True intercession is not lamentation, it is contemplation. It is not supplication, it is affirmation. It is not a repeated diagnosis, it is a sustained mental equivalent. When you pray for someone, what you offer is not merely your wish for their improvement, but your mental image of who you believe that person to be. And if your image is charged with fear, illness, or worry, even if you speak kind words, the message reaching the other person's subconscious is contradictory. You cannot affirm health while thinking of disease. You cannot transmit peace while imagining chaos. You cannot invoke life while keeping the idea of evil alive. Fox taught that the imagination must be consecrated, not because it has hidden powers, but because it is the soul's creative instrument. Everything you hold clearly in your mind, repeated and emotionally charged, tends to manifest. That is the law. What you contemplate, you project, and what you project, you communicate, even without words. Therefore, praying for another begins by seeing them in God and from God. Suppose someone asks you to pray for their health. The immediate temptation may be to hear the details, ask about symptoms, remember their history. But this is not spiritual help, it is collaboration with error. It focuses on the problem. It anchors attention in the apparent. Instead, if you maintain inner silence and in your mind, see that person full of light, strong, at peace, naturally expressing God's life, you are touching the law in their favor. It is not about denying their experience, but about not perpetuating it mentally. You do not give attention to the negative, but you deny power to evil. You do not debate what occurs, but you affirm what is. You become a witness to the truth, and that is the highest service you can perform for another. No physical contact is required, no presence is necessary, only alignment. And when two minds, even separated by distance, unite in contemplation of the good, the law responds, for good does not need to be asked for, it only needs to be recognized. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I. It does not matter if they do not meet physically. It is enough that they unite in thought, in intention, in mental image, that they gather, that is, coincide in consciousness, in the name, in principle, in truth, in Christ. And where this occurs, there can be no interference, because where truth is established, error dissolves by law. This requires training, it is not automatic. An unconsecrated mind tends to see defects, to repeat the story of evil, to seek morbid details. Therefore, the imagination must be educated like a child, with patience, clarity, and example. Each time you think of someone, bless them silently. It does not matter whether you know them well or not, whether you like them or not. Say to yourself firmly but gently, God's life expresses itself freely in you. Hold that image for a moment. Visualize them calm, in order, in health. Do not force it. Simply look at them as God sees them, perfect in essence, even if appearances suggest otherwise. Practice this with everyone you encounter during the day. The baker, the passerby, the arguing family member, the sick person who cries out, the leader who governs, not to correct them, not to change them, but to recognize Christ in them. This silent recognition, sustained consistently, is the greatest service you can offer the world, and is also an act of healing for yourself, because by seeing God in another, you affirm your own divinity, and that affirmation nourishes your soul. You can also establish a simple prayer circle. No ceremony or temple is required. It can be a small group meeting, physically or in consciousness at the same time, for 5-10 minutes daily, to contemplate together the truth about themselves and others. Discussion of the problem is not allowed. Analysis of evil is not permitted. Only the affirmation of good, visualizing, feeling, declaring, and then letting go. The ensuing silence is part of the prayer because there the seed takes root. The practice can include a central affirmation. God's life expresses itself freely in you. Repeat it inwardly while thinking of the person for whom you pray. See how the light surrounds, penetrates, and vivifies them. See their face calm, their body in order, their life harmonious. Do not worry if initially your imagination resists. The mental image strengthens with practice, and when it becomes clear, it becomes a channel of manifestation. If the person for whom you pray insists on repeating their difficulty, listen with compassion but do not absorb their image. Hear with your ears, but see with the eyes of your soul. And inwardly repeat again and again, I do not see you as you describe yourself. I see you as God created you. I see you healthy, free, at peace. That is true help. If you are carried away by the story of suffering, you sink together. But if you remain firm in the vision of truth, you extend an invisible rope that can lift them. Intercession is not a burden, it is an honor. It is not an obligation, it is an act of love. And when done with purity, without desire to control, without fear of outcome, without need for merit, it becomes a channel through which good flows freely. Often the other person will not know what you did, but they will feel peace, clarity, strength, because souls communicate beyond words. Practical reflection. Today I consecrate my imagination. I will not use it to reinforce evil. I will not think illness over anyone. I will not repeat another's diagnosis. Instead, I will affirm, God's life expresses itself freely in you. And as I affirm it, I will see light. I will see peace. I will see order, because this is to love, and this is to heal. Chapter 10, Trial and Victory, Steadfastness, amid symptoms and fluctuations. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Matthew 12:36. Nothing is more deceptive than appearance. Nothing is more unstable than what is visible. The body, like all external manifestations, responds to internal causes, but it does so in a rhythm that does not always align with our impatience. The human mind, when not properly trained, tends to measure spiritual success by what it sees, what it feels, or what it interprets. It becomes excited at signs of improvement and collapses when symptoms return. It confuses fluctuation with failure and forgets that truth does not change, even when forms do. Spiritual healing is not linear. It does not follow a mechanical path. Sometimes the body takes time to reflect what has already occurred in consciousness. At other times, setbacks seem to appear. Sometimes new discomfort arises, and if at that moment the mind returns to fear, if the mouth utters doubt, the treatment weakens or even unravels, because in the spiritual realm, nothing is forced, but everything can be deactivated if fear is allowed to take the helm. Fox, as a true guide of souls, would prepare the reader for these moments, not so they become accustomed to pain, but so they do not panic when the apparent does not yet match the real. The key is not to monitor the body, but to guard faith, not to count symptoms, but to affirm the law. For even if the body is slow, the principle is constant, and where faith remains firm, serene, and confident, victory is assured. Faith is not emotion. It is not a mood. It is not momentary enthusiasm. Faith is fidelity. It is remaining united with truth when it cannot be seen, felt, or confirmed. It is like the farmer who sows seeds and continues to tend the soil, even when no sprouts are visible. It is like the mother who carries a child without seeing it. It is like the architect who follows the blueprint, even though the construction is slow. If the soul remains steadfast in conviction, the body will eventually align. But if at the first up and down one doubts, if the flesh is consulted as judge, if words are used to declare the illness again, if fear is revived in thought, the flow of good is interrupted, not because God withdraws it, but because the human channel has closed. The mind has released affirmation and embraced doubt. It has replaced the seed with weeds. It has lost the golden thread that connected it to the good. Therefore, it is vital to cultivate joyful constancy, not rigid discipline, but fidelity lived with delight. This is not about reciting formulas mechanically. It is about returning daily to the center, to truth, to presence. Even if symptoms remain, even if there are ups and downs, even if there is silence, this calm, humble, confident perseverance is half the journey. A powerful tool in this process is a journal of testimonies and small progress. Record each sign, each step, each improvement. Do not wait for the complete miracle. Appreciate the hints. Notice the reduction of pain, the improvement of sleep, the sense of relief, the word that brought peace. This reinforces faith. It reminds you that the law is in action. It helps you see what is real, not what is illusory. And when cloudy days come, this journal will be a light. Another essential practice is a weekly review of affirmations, not to find mistakes, but to reinforce the path. Once a week, sit in silence, read your affirmations, feel each one. See if any need adjustment, simplification, or deepening. Do not overwhelm yourself with too many. Choose one or two that speak to your soul and repeat them throughout the week, so they are imprinted not on memory, but in the heart. Do not expect to feel anything immediately. Trust that they are working like a seed, acting invisibly before it sprouts. Finally, always remember the supreme resource, the golden key. This teaching, which I have shared with thousands over the years, never loses relevance or power. In moments of urgency, when fear threatens to take control, mentally step away from the problem and think of God. Do not think of the ailment. Do not think of the diagnosis. Do not think of the treatment. Only think of God, of His presence, His power, His love, His perfection. Repeat, God is with me, God is health, God is order, God is life, God is all. And maintain that thought effortlessly, without struggle, tenderly. The more one focuses on God, the more the illusion of evil dissolves, for light does not need to fight darkness. It simply shines, and darkness disappears. Likewise, when the mind is filled with truth, error finds no place to take hold and healing completes itself, not forced but allowed. Trials do not signify failure. Fluctuations do not nullify progress. They are simply remnants of old thought that still resist dying. But if you remain firm, confident, and joyful, those remnants will dissolve, and the health that was already yours in spirit will manifest in form as well. Practical reflection. Today I remain faithful. Though my body fluctuates, truth does not change. Though apparent evil persists, I give it no power. I joyfully declare, my faith is not in the visible, but in the law of God at work. And because I trust, I persevere. And because I persevere, I triumph. Chapter 11, Health and Wholeness, Concord of the Soul and Provision. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Matthew 6:33. There is an absolute law that never fails, and it is this: true health cannot flourish in a divided soul, in a hardened heart, or in a life driven by conflict. Just as a river needs a clear channel to flow, health, as an expression of the divine principle, requires an inner terrain in harmony. Health is not merely the absence of symptoms. It is not simply that the body functions. It is the integrity of the whole being. It is complete harmony among thought, emotion, environment, relationships, and provision. It is a state of spiritual order that manifests as physical, emotional, mental, and material well-being. Fox taught that there is no real separation between the soul and circumstances. There are no watertight compartments where faith and personal conflict can coexist without consequence. The law is one and operates in all things. You cannot harbor resentment and expect peace. You cannot live in anxiety and expect rest. You cannot cultivate judgment and expect lightness. Nor can you hold ideas of scarcity, guilt, or competition within and expect your body to remain healthy. Everything that occurs inside, each attitude, each emotion, each unspoken but thought word, leaves a mark, and over time, that mark becomes form. Therefore, if the reader desires stable, lasting, joyful health, they must look beyond physical symptoms. They must examine their relationships, daily interactions, work habits, speech, and their connection to money, routine, and others. The body does not fall ill on its own, it expresses. And often what it expresses is the imbalance of a life that has lost its center. Wholeness is health, and health necessarily includes harmony with the environment. It is not about having everything perfectly resolved. It is about living from a center of peace. A soul living in discord with family, holding bitterness toward old friends, competing at work, or constantly fearing for money cannot sustain the vibration of health for long. Sooner or later, that discord will become visible, not as punishment, but as the manifestation of an internal cause. However, this is not about seeking perfect relationships or ideal circumstances. That would be avoidance. It is about ordering the soul, establishing correct priorities, seeking first the kingdom, that is, placing truth first. The truth that you are a child of God, that others are too, that life is abundant, that good is law, that there is no separation in God. When you place this truth at the center, everything else aligns around it. But if you place money, the need for approval, or concern for others' opinions on the throne of your mind, truth is relegated, and life becomes confused, tense, and fragmented. Not because God punishes, but because you are building on sand. Seek first the kingdom is not advice, it is a law of soul structuring. Whatever you put first determines the outcome. In practice, this translates into daily self-examination. Ask yourself, without judgment but with honesty, am I acting from fear or trust, from hurry or order, from hardness or kindness? Observe how you respond to setbacks, react to criticism, think about debts, speak of others when they cannot hear you, or regard strangers you encounter. Whenever you detect an attitude that does not reflect truth, do not blame yourself. Replace it. Not with effort, but with awareness. Say inwardly, that is no longer my choice. I choose trust. I choose order. I choose blessing. What may seem simple is profoundly transformative. By clearing the atmosphere of your soul, you open the gates of good, and results begin to manifest on all levels. Better relationships, unexpected solutions, physical relief, deep rest, joy without cause. A particularly powerful practice in this context is giving with joy. It is not about quantity or obligation. It is about establishing a flow. What you give Time, attention, money, blessing does not leave you. It circulates through you. The more freely it circulates, the more space there is for good to return. When you give with resentment or fear, you block the flow. But when you give with joy, faith, and generosity, you testify that God is your source. And where God is the source, nothing is lacking. Fox never recommended theories of greed or formulas to enrich oneself at another's expense. He taught provision as a natural reflection of an elevated consciousness. When you live from the kingdom, supply comes, not because you chase it, but because you attract it, not because you demand it, but because you express it. And that supply manifests in what you need: food, shelter, clothing, companionship, work, rest. Not all at once, nor according to your human measure, but in the rhythm and form that infinite intelligence deems best. I recommend including passages on divine providence in your spiritual reading. Read Psalm 23. I shall not want. Read Psalm 91. Read Jesus' teachings on the lilies of the field and the birds of the air, not as poetry but as laws, and if you understand them as such and apply them consistently, you will see real, concrete, lasting results. Practical reflection. Today I align my health with my life. I choose harmony in my relationships. I choose trust in my provision. I choose kindness in my dealings. I choose to give with joy, and I declare, I seek first the kingdom, and all else is added to me, for God is order, and where there is order, there is health. Chapter 12. Walking in the light, maintaining it, and serving. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Matthew 5:14, 16. The spiritual path does not end with healing. On the contrary, it truly begins with it. For health attained in consciousness, health that does not depend on chance or material remedies, but on alignment with the principle, cannot be sustained by inertia nor maintained through passivity. It is confirmed, deepened, and expanded through daily practice and selfless service. This is a truth that cannot be forgotten. Health is not just something one receives, it is something one lives. And living it is not about confining oneself to caring for the body, but about opening oneself to a useful, joyful life, dedicated to the good. Many, once relieved of discomfort, unconsciously return to the old mental habits that caused their difficulties: constant worry, criticism, agitation, complaint, neglect of prayer, forgetting inner vigilance. And then they wonder, why has the difficulty returned? Not because they were punished, not because the healing was incomplete, but because they let go of the word and resumed the old image. On the other hand, one who understands that health is a sustained state of consciousness does not neglect oneself. One perseveres with joy, becomes a guardian of their temple, and that guardian is light for others. Walking in the light means living from truth, not as theory, not as a refuge from pain, but as a habitual way of existing. It means waking each morning with a simple prayer, not out of habit, but out of reverence. A prayer like this: Father, on this new day, guide my thoughts, direct my steps, strengthen my faith. Today, I choose the light. A few minutes of reflection are enough to align the mind at the start of the day, and this initial axis is the root of all stability. During the day, no seclusion or isolation is necessary. A friendly vigilance over your thoughts is enough. Ask yourself while working, walking, or conversing, from where am I thinking this? From fear or from truth? From reaction or from presence? Not to punish yourself, but to redirect, not to analyze, but to remember. You are not a slave to your emotions. You are a child of God, capable of choosing your thoughts, and that choice, repeated with love, becomes habit. That sustained habit becomes character. That enlightened character becomes lasting health. At nightfall, gratitude and forgiveness are the seal. No matter how your day has been, there is always something to be grateful for and something to release. Be thankful for visible improvements and also for those you have not yet seen. Be thankful for every opportunity to choose better. Then release all burdens with these words: I forgive everything. I forgive myself and surrender this day to God. This nightly surrender cleanses the soul, relaxes the body, and prepares the field for a new dawn. Nothing stabilizes the body more than a mind free of resentment and a grateful heart. All this reaches its fullness when the soul begins to serve with joy, because selfless service takes the individual out of the confinement of the self. It reminds us that we are not a body taking care of itself, but a divine spark sharing itself. It is not about grand gestures or sacrifice. It is about expressing goodness in daily life, a kind word, sincere listening, a silent prayer for someone, a task done with love, a donation offered respectfully, a smile to a stranger. Every act done in awareness of unity reinforces health because it reaffirms love. And love, as the Master taught, fulfills all law. He who serves heals. He who gives receives. He who forgets himself in the act of blessing returns to the deepest part of himself, where he finds his true identity, not as one who strives to be good, but as one who remembers he is already one with the good. To sustain this walk, I recommend establishing a 30-day plan of prayer and silence, not to achieve something, but to deepen the habit of communion. Dedicate a few minutes upon waking, a moment of reflection at midday, and a closing of gratitude and surrender at night. If possible, accompany it with a brief reading from the Sermon on the Mount or its mental equivalent. Better still, it is not the quantity, but the attentiveness of heart that transforms. You can also maintain a spiritual checklist. 3 columns: morning, midday, night. In each, write down one simple spiritual action, an affirmation, a prayer, a reading, or a moment of silence. Do not treat it as a burden. See it as loving care of the soul, cleansing your temple, exercising your divine freedom. Finally, make a personal commitment to serve. Choose a small but concrete way to share what you have received. Perhaps help a neighbor, write letters of encouragement, join a prayer circle, teach these principles to someone in need, or simply live so that your presence is a blessing wherever you are. You have not been healed just for yourself. You have been healed to shine. Fox would conclude this path with a firm and loving call: live as if it is true, because it is, that God dwells in your house. And that house is not made of bricks or walls. It is you, your mind, your body, your life, your conduct, your word. Every part of you can be a temple, a channel, an instrument. And when it is, health is no longer a goal. It is a natural expression of the kingdom within you. Practical reflection. Today I choose to walk in the light, not by merit, but by nature. I will maintain prayer, vigilance, forgiveness, and gratitude, and I will share my peace with others as a fruit of the love dwelling in me. I declare God lives in me, and where God lives, health, peace, and fullness reign.